What is up, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Kevin and Zach Reacts. I'm your host, Zach Bollinger. Kevin Ostreicher will be joining me shortly, but a little impromptu stream as the Orioles make a crap ton of moves. Let's call it what it is. 1, 2, 3, 4. Wow, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys involved in roster moves. It's insane at this point. Yeah, Zach has been covering how far Nick Vespi has traveled the miles, and his travel points are through the absolute roof right now. But let's go over we'll talk about all the moves at first, just exactly what happened, and then we'll get into the big storyline, which is Trevor Rogers, who the Orioles traded for at the deadline, traded Connor Norby and Kyle Stowers for, is sent to AAA after 3 rather disappointing starts, but we'll dig a little deeper into that in a minute. So, first and foremost, the Orioles activated Emmanuel Rivera. He will wear number 26, so he is going to be in the infield playing third base, probably splitting time with Urias over there. They selected the contract of right-handed pitcher Matt Bowman, he'll wear 51. They recalled Nick Vespi. Shout out Nick Vespi. Incredible hair. Then they optioned Trevor Rogers, Colin Selby, which I'm a little disappointed in, and Levon Soto. They then also designated Bruce Zimmerman for assignment. Rolled ons, though. So, yeah, before we dig too deep into Rogers, I'm going to pull up his last 3 starts just so we can look at the stats. And I think I saw a comment earlier here. Patrick, I completely agree. Not saying he can't be good next year, but Rodgers has not impressed me so far. I completely agree. And when we look at Trevor Rogers, he has so far in his 3 starts with the Orioles, he has a record of 0-1 with an ERA of 6.14, 9 strikeouts in 3 appearances. So the other big thing is he goes 5 innings his first game, 5 innings his second, 4 2/3 in his third. But when you're giving up 2 runs, 5 runs, 3 runs, and not going into the 6th or 7th, it wasn't atrocious. I mean, obviously, some of the runs were more so in the 2 earned runs. He gave up 3 runs. It just felt underwhelming. I don't think it necessarily was a point of he was god-awful, you couldn't win with him, all this. I think they're just going to try to fix it whatever they want to down in Norfolk. There's clearly things that they need to work on with Trevor Rogers, and I think they got to the point where they're like, we cannot have these mistakes be getting made in the majors. If we want him to work through stuff, want him to try things out, it has to be in AAA, because on August 22nd, when we're a half game behind the Yankees, or is it more? Is it more right now? Game back of the Yankees? Yeah, half game back of the Yankees. We're at the point where every game matters. There's 35 games left, I think, 34 games left. Every game matters. You can't have a starting pitcher going out there and you're like, we're going to hope he figures it out. Who's starting Sunday night, in your opinion, with Rodgers being sent down? I would assume it's going to be probably Povich or Irvin would be my best guess. Have they said anything on that? I think they might have put something out, or at least Rock Kabako did. Let me check that real fast. But I would assume it's going to be one of Cole Irvin or Cade Povich. So Steve, it's Povich tomorrow. So then, I would guess it's probably 90% chance it's Cole Irvin. So as long, I would guess it goes Cole Irvin. So it would go Corbin Burns tonight, Cade Povich Friday. You'd get Albert Suarez, and then the next guy, I think it would just be really easy to slot in Cole Irvin there. So that's what I assume. Tonight you got the Orioles facing Spencer Arrighetti, 5-11 with a 5.20 ERA. So I'm sure he'll throw a perfect game. So congrats, Spencer, in advance. But yeah, so the biggest move right here is obviously the Trevor Rogers move. And as we just talked about, it wasn't especially his last game, you didn't. Okay, Kevin. Kevin, how did you? Okay, one moment. I gotta get Kevin. Okay, Kevin, I just sent you the link. The things we do on Kevin and Zach Reacts, all the behind the scenes stuff is done in front of the scenes. But back to Trevor Rogers, it felt like each start he made, you were just underwhelmed. It wasn't like he was going out there, and even when he wasn't, even when he was pitching well, he'd get 1, 2, 3 innings and stuff. It never looked like he was dominating guys. It never looked like he was putting on a clinic. He wasn't overpowering guys because he doesn't have that overpowering fastball. It didn't look like he was fooling too many guys. So you really sat there and you kind of looked at yourself like, okay, is this a guy that within the next few weeks can really put it all together? And I'm not sure it is. I'm not sure it is. Seeing Dan says, wouldn't Sunday be Dean? Yeah, it could also be Dean. I think it's probably now between Dean and Irvin. It really depends. Maybe they want Dean versus LA, but I'm not sure what that decision is being made on, because I think it would be Dean's turn in the rotation. But with them announcing TBA, I guess it's between Irvin and Dean, because then you also have Monday off while they fly to LA. So wondering if they're seeing which guy feels like they need rest. Yeah. So Trevor Rogers. It was disappointing. And I think the biggest disappointment is obviously you gave up Connor Norby and Kyle Stowers. I think that's the biggest part that sucks about this. If this was something where you gave up 2 mid-tier prospects and it didn't work out, you'd be like, whatever, we're moving on. But it's the fact that you gave up, in my opinion, Connor Norby, who was the star kind of that whole package. I think he was the best player involved in that deal, even including Trevor Rogers. He's out there. He started his career in the big leagues with the Marlins. So far, he's played 2 games back up there, and he's 3 for 9, 333 average. He's got 2 doubles and a single. I'm happy for him, but it really does sting to see him starting to get his groove in Miami, knowing that it really felt like the Orioles reached for Trevor Rogers. It felt like they just felt the need to go get a pitcher when they didn't. It wasn't the right guy. They needed a left-handed pitcher, and I felt like they went after him because he just fit a criteria. And instead of it being a guy that was worth giving up Norby, it felt like they almost just traded Norby and Stowers to trade Norby and Stowers. They just wanted something. And Trevor Rogers, we all talk about, he was great in 2021, but unfortunately it's August 22nd, 2024. This ain't Kansas anymore, Dorothy. Like, it's 3 years later. This is starting to become, this is who Trevor Rogers is. And the metrics look different of 2024 versus 2021. It's not like he's doing the same things, and it's just getting away from him. It's a brutal one. And Patrick saying the last loss of the trade, you can't change my mind, but no GMs wins all their trade. Yeah, and I will say, as disappointed as I am in this trade, and I hated it, if you watched our live stream when we reacted to it live, I was not happy at all. I hated this trade from the second it popped up on my phone, giving up Norby for Trevor Rogers and then add in Stowers. I hated it. But I will say they do still have 2 years of Rodgers. They can somehow have the comeback of the century in this trade if Rodgers turns into a decent 3, decent 4. But I agree. Right now, Patrick, it looks like Elias did lose this trade. And you're right. Not every GM is going to shoot 100 on their trades, but it does suck in this kind of year, especially with the injuries that happened and, the opportunities that Norby probably could be. He's playing third base in Miami, could even be playing third up here for the Orioles. it's just disappointing to lose a guy of that much talent to get an underwhelming lefty in return. Yeah, it is. And I see a lot of people are kind of, I knew no one really liked the trade at the moment. So that's that. I'm going to go back into, let's go look at the other players that are coming up in this deal, in this myriad of moves, so that we can get a little more. We'll get back into the Trevor Rogers when Kevin joins. But Nick Vespi gets called back up. I'm a huge Nick Vespi fan. I'm going to be honest. If you've watched the show, you probably know that. I think Nick Vespi has incredible talent. I think he has incredible upside. I've always wanted to see him in a high leverage situation, be a high leverage guy for the Orioles. I think he's got all the intangibles to be a really good bullpen piece. So I'm always happy when he's up there. I know they'll probably send him down in like 3 days, 2 days for Keegan Aiken when he comes off the paternity list. But I am happy to see a guy like Nick Vespi back. I truly enjoy him. So it's going to be an interesting. It's going to be interesting just to see what happens with the rest, because you send down Colin Selby as well, who I thought was pitching fantastic. I know this was probably just a numbers game, but someone had to go down, and it is Selby. Does anyone know what the deal is with Vespi's options are? Haven't we optioned him too much? So the Orioles, like usual, have found loopholes into this. I'm sure they're going to say, because if he has to come up and get sent down for injuries or paternity lists, stuff like that, then that's when they can get away with options. So you can send him down, but say, hey, we had to use him for injury, and the MLB is like, oh, that doesn't count. And then I'm sure they're going to find a way to make this the move for Keegan Aiken. And at that point, he might not even get an option for this one. So I'm not completely sure. The options are the most confusing part of baseball to me. Yes, he does have options left, but I'm not sure if this one counts, because you can only send a guy up. I believe you can send him down like 5 times a year, and they've done it like 4 or 5, but a few of them were because of injuries and stuff like that. So they don't necessarily count, and it's just one of those loopholes that GMs have to get away with it. And I think Kevin Ostreicher is behind the background. Kevin, are you here?
Yeah, can you do solo?
Yeah.
There you go. Now it's a real call in.
Kevin, how are we feeling? Let's just cut straight to the chase. How are we feeling about the Trevor Rogers news?
It's weird. I feel like it was expected yet unexpected at the same time. Like, it was more of a were they actually going to do it type of deal to me.
Mm-hmm. It was they should, but will they?
Yeah, because I think we've been talking. Well, I think there are differences. So, you kind of, if you look at what Craig Kimball's doing right now, he's probably, wiping the forehead like, woo, glad it wasn't me. But I know we've talked about what that looks like compared to Rodgers, but he had the options. He obviously wasn't doing enough, and not that his last couple of starts have been like terrible,
Mm-hmm.
but obviously there was a lot of room for improvement. Didn't start very well.
Yeah.
Now it's just a matter of like
the word I used was underwhelming. It wasn't horrible. It was just like, oh, okay.
Well, I think part of that, and I caught the very end of this before I got in the studio, but was the package they gave up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's it. Like, if you flip the Eflin and Rogers deals package wise, you're feeling a lot better. So if you're trying to get some Orioles Copen, you can just say, hey, they traded Norby and Stowers for Eflin, and then they traded the other 3 for Rogers. But yeah, it's tough because that was really the other starter, right? We had talked about it all leading up to the deadline. The Orioles, they could really use 2 starters. It would really boost their rotation, the injury insurance and whatnot. And the guy who's helped you the most has gone down in Eflin, and he's, to be TBD in terms of return. And then, it comes down to, well, could they have gotten someone else for that Norby Stowers package? Was there anybody else out on the market? Could have Fetty have been dealt to Baltimore instead of Rogers or any of these? And I know performances, we can look at how these guys are performing with their new teams as an adjustment, but best case now that it's already happened, is he's able to go down to AAA, just kind of work through some stuff, get his confidence back, get acclimated a little more. And look, we saw the Marlins. It's different. Like, I'm not comparing it one for one, but everybody assumed once the Marlins traded for Connor Norby, he'd just be up and starting right away, and that would be like his thing. But he went down to AAA there down in Jacksonville and kind of worked through some stuff, and then now he's back up. So again, it's not a one for one. Obviously, Rogers was there and struggled. He's down now, but I think this is a move that, I think it was the right one at the end of the day. But I think it's just disappointing considering that we had talked all leading up to the deadline about how the Orioles needed 2 starters. They got one that helped them, but the other trade just did not work out. And we can talk about next year, but I mean, we're focusing. We're still in this year, and Rodgers seemingly, whether he gets called back up for September, who knows? But right now, he has not helped the team in the way that they needed their second starter acquisition to.
Yeah, and I just want to point out, thank you, Brian. I felt really grown up using this word.
There you go.
Yeah, I was like, what if I just put this in the title? Make people think we're smart, Kevin. Make people think we're smart. But yeah, it is.
Whip out the dictionary.
It is the disappointing fact that the Orioles had to make a move for a lefty. You just felt like there were better options out there. There were guys that, even though none of the big names, the Skubals, the Snells, the Webbs, got dealt, you sit there and you're like, man, if you would just gotten one of them, obviously the trade package would have been a lot bigger, but you're just sitting there disappointed that the fact that, hey, we thought we were getting a guy that you hoped could help you down the stretch, and now he's sitting in AAA. Like we had guys in AAA, and it feels like almost like, okay, they just decided Cole Irvin was the better option right now to go be that lefty in the out of the rotation. And that sucks, not because I'm a swerving Irvin truther, as you know, Kevin, but it's like we had Cole Irvin at home. Like, it was one of those things. Sure. Like, even if it felt like as soon as this trade was made too, that was the big comparison, was like, so we traded Norby and Stowers for another Cole Irvin, another lefty who can have high upside and you can go on stretches of dominance, but has been inconsistent. It's like, okay, I would have almost rather just taken our chances and, that Cole Irvin returns to what he did the first half of the year when he was arguably a top 3 pitcher in this rotation by the numbers. I would have rather taken that risk than giving up Norby and Stowers for a guy that now what a weird time. Now Norby and Stowers are in the majors, and the guy we got's in the minors.
Yeah, man, it's just it's tough because now it's your farm system's a little more depleted if you're Baltimore. If obviously, like you mentioned, with the Skubal packages and those type of guys, obviously we're getting into like Jackson territory, and obviously we've made it very clear that we would still rather have Jackson than a Skubal, even if it means they weren't able to get that frontline guy. But I don't think we were never really talking about a frontline guy, Zach, until the Skubal rumors started to really pick up, where we were pretty consistent. Yeah, exactly. You and I were saying. And even, Ryan as well, we're like, okay, well, if they can get a number 3 guy and then maybe like a back end 4 or 5 type guy, that would be good enough. And so obviously the Eflin was the 3, who is now, he was the 2 when Grayson went down. But the Rodgers one was iffy because of the command issues that we already knew about. And obviously you talked about it just as like, well, Cole was already kind of doing something similar to this. Could you have traded Norby and Stowers for just a little bit more of an upgrade? But obviously, once the Kikuchi deal went down, the pitching premium only went up, and I'm sure the Crochet Skubal offers did too. So they did what they could with what they had. but I thought they could have done a little bit more with that package, maybe thrown in another lower level mid-tier prospect to get somebody else. I think it was just the shock value of trading Norby and Stowers has never really went away. And I'm not sure, like, Norby has a hit in all 3 of his first 3 games with Miami right now. If that continues to look the way it does, I don't think, regardless of if Rodgers goes out there and, he becomes a solid number 4 guy that's like somewhat inconsistent but can go out there and get you a start, that Norby Stowers thing is going to follow him, at least determining how those 2 end up performing. If they don't do well, then obviously it's kind of a wash, whatever.
Yeah, and obviously Stowers has had massive struggles in the majors with the Marlins so far. Norby, yes, I think, is always was that prized possession of the deal. Yep. I think he's the one that people were upset about getting rid of. So I think it is mostly Norby that people are upset about.
Yeah.
But it just stings when you make that deal and 4 starts in, Rodgers is done, 3 starts in.
Yeah, you would think, like, look, the options, the team control, all of that, he can still be an effective piece if he can get it together, but it now feels more like a future move as opposed to a win now move. Now that the Orioles were going all in on win now and saying, oh, well, we're trading everybody and we're going all in this year and that's it. Obviously, that wasn't the plan, especially when you look at their strategy, which was get guys with team control. But the difference is the other guys who they traded for have team control and they're helping the club win now in some way, shape, or form. Most of them, not all of them, but most of them. Whereas for Rodgers, it's like, oh, this guy can be great in 2025, but we're not done with 2024 yet. It's like I posted that Bleacher Report article yesterday for the Ravens where Bleacher Report said, oh, DeAndre Hopkins can come in 2025. And everyone's like, we're not done with 2024. We're not even started 2024. Like, what are we talking about? So there's still potential with Rodgers, but for this season in particular, it felt like they could have done a little better. And that's stuff that we have said before. This isn't like a hot take for us, right? We've been on that train.
Yeah, I think we were from the beginning. We felt like Rodgers, as soon as you saw there was 2 years of team control, you're like, that's why they got him. It wasn't necessarily, oh, we think he can help us now. I think they were thinking best case scenario. He helps you now and later. But it's going to be up to, it's going to be up to Rodgers. He's got to get it going in the minors. I don't think he's going. Maybe he comes back up in September. I could see that. Yeah. But I don't think they're going to rush him up. I don't think they're going to say, hey, you're getting 2 starts down there, then you're back. I think it's going to be one of those situations where if he goes down there and struggles, it's like, okay, this is your season. Then we're going to work with you in the offseason. And then we're going to run it back in 2025, see how you do. But I'm not necessarily sure that this is one of those situations where they're like, okay, Rodgers, even if you struggle down there, we just want to give you a breather, that even if you struggle, we're going to bring you back up. I don't think he has a guaranteed spot on this roster the rest of the year. I think he's going to have to, and I think he's going to have to earn it next year as well.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing where, we can't just sit here and say, okay, 2025, he's going to be back and he's going to work through it. He has to earn that. He has to prove it. I'm sure people will be keeping a close eye on what he does down in AAA, but for now, you got to roll with what you have. And it feels like, Irvin, Povich, they are going through just every single person on this.
Remember when we had
person in this organization?
Remember early in the year when we were like, gosh, this rotation, man, they can take a hit or two because there's so much depth. The baseball gods heard us talking shit and we're like, oh, but can they handle 6 guys going out? And we're like, why would we?
Once you start getting into the double digit punches, you're not gonna be great. But let me run in. I'm gonna get this stuff for the fish tank so that Birchfish and Ripfin don't.
Yeah, I'm just gonna talk for a couple more minutes. I'll probably hop off. But before we go, we do have the Ryan Ripken show at 5:30. This is Kevin and Zach Reacts. We're live after every single Orioles and Ravens game. We also go live for news like this right now. We also went live for the Zach Eflin injury news. So we pretty much go live. We go live every day for post-game shows and then pretty much anything in between. But Ryan Ripken show later today at 5:30, so you won't want to miss that. But yeah, Kevin, you get out here. I'm going to talk a little bit about just kind of wrapping up here and go save the fish.
All right, save the fish. We'll, of course, be back here tonight for the Astros game. So hopefully they're able to pull out a win And yeah, I'll see you then. I'll give you chewies on the way out.
Absolutely love it, Kevin. Absolutely love it. So, guys, before we get out of here, I'm going to use this as a little bit of a pregame show. A little bit of a pregame show. So we're going to switch it up. We're going to switch it up a bit. Let's go 1 through 10. How confident in the chat are we in Corbin Burns tonight? I know he struggled last time out. He struggled, honestly, his last like 2-3 times out. So 1 through 10, where's your confidence in Burns? Guys, I'm going to say maybe I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. Maybe I'm just like a little bit too optimistic right now, but I'm loving Burns tonight. After he got shelled for career highs last time, I'm feeling like this is going to be one of those pissed off Corbin Burns who comes out here and throws 7-8 innings of 1-run ball. I think this is why we got him, because after a rough series in New York, you need your ace to come out here and start this series off hot. I'm going to say this is the biggest series as of today in the season because it's 4 games against the hottest team in baseball. Your season, you are a half game behind the New York Yankees. The Yankees, who are currently playing right now, they are 0-0 with the Guardians in the bottom of the 4th. So if the Yankees win, they're a whole game up. If the Yankees win and the Orioles lose, they're a game and a half back. So this is a massive series, especially for the division. You have to take at least 2 here. And you feel so much better about taking 2 if you're able to have Corbin Burns go out there tonight and get the win, because then it's not pressure on Povich. If you get beat tonight, it starts getting, now the pressure's on Povich, on Suarez, and then whoever starts Irvin or Kramer on Sunday. And yeah, Heather, the Orioles are bringing all the stops out. They said we're bringing the 3-man booth back tonight. Ben McDonald, Kevin Brown, and Jim Palmer all in the booth tonight. So if you want incredible vibes, you got it. Adam's saying our season is on the line these next 7 days. Yeah, next 7 games, 4 against Houston, 3 against the Dodgers. I don't want to seem like the sky is falling or anything, but like I would take going 3-4 any day of the week. Any day of the week. Sorry. Tonight is Fox, and then it starts tomorrow. Begins the 3-man booth. So Fox being tonight. Yes. So he has been hunting for 13th win for 3 straight starts now. And actually the funniest part about this, Corbin Burns has never won more than 12 games in a season. So maybe he's got to get that camo off the back. He's got to get that 13th win, and then we're going. So just massive series coming up here. Super exciting. I know it's scary, but at the end of the day, it's meaningful baseball in August. I know people aren't happy with how the season's been going, but as an Oriole fan for my entire life, I used to kill for the idea of the Orioles playing meaningful baseball on August 22nd, competing for the number 1 spot in the American League. So that'll pretty much do it for right now. The Orioles play tonight at 7:08 on Fox against the Houston Astros. It is Corbin Burns versus Spencer Arrighetti. Arrighetti is 5-11 with a 5.2 ERA. Let me, guys, before I go, I'm gonna look at Arrighetti's last 5 starts, because I'm not gonna fall for this whole season and then suddenly he just did. Did Judge just go yard again? Is that what I'm seeing? Yes, he did. Jeez. I mean, it was a short porcher, but still, he's insane. Aaron Judge is absolutely insane. So let's look at Arrighetti's last 5 games real fast. So last 5 games, he's 1-4 with an ERA of 4.11 with 41 strikeouts in how many innings? 30. So he's going to strike out some guys, but this should be a game when you have Corbin Burns facing a guy with a 5.2 ERA, you need to win that game every single time. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. Orioles play tonight at 7:08. Ryan Ripken show at 5:30. We will be taking you up until first pitch. Then Kevin and Zach Reacts will be live right here, win or lose, for the post-game show. Hopefully the Orioles can pull out a win. Hopefully we can get in better position in the American League and just start to try to get the vibes back in somehow, some way. Hope the bullpen can keep it together. Hope the offense shows up. But that's going to do it for this edition of Kevin and Zach Reacts. Thank you all for tuning in. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button on your way out. And we will be back later tonight for another edition of the post-game show. I will see you guys later.